One of the most amazing buildings that humans have ever created are the ancient Egyptian pyramids. These pyramids, which date back to almost 5,000 years ago, were built when Egypt was one of the world's richest and most powerful civilizations. As a result, they are now a source of intrigue and conjecture for the entire human race. However, it doesn't entirely explain how they were able to build and execute a 500-foot pyramid when the most advanced technology they had was simply copper. Something just doesn't feel right. Today's archaeologists argue that the ancient Egyptians were far more evolved than we thought they were. Many archaeologists have made an effort to provide rational justifications for how this was achieved. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and a tech mogul, may have just exposed a fact that many archaeologists and the Egyptians have been keeping from you. This controversy-provoking discovery will alter what we believe to be true about the pyramids. The amazing pyramids in Egypt are without a doubt one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. These magnificent architectural structures were built 4,600 years ago, and the fact that we can still point to them today is a testament to the incredible ingenuity of these timeless works of art. So what did Elon Musk say about the pyramids? Who really built the pyramids of Giza, and how come they've remained standing for over 5,000 years? Scientists, archaeologists, and historians have all endeavored to piece together how these massive structures were constructed over the past 1,000 years. Any attempt to do so, however, has been far from fruitful or definitive. Using various hypotheses and information acquired at the pyramid site, numerous archaeologists and Egyptologists have attempted to explain how the Egyptians accomplished it. These claims and results, however, have been refuted by some who maintain that the Egyptians could not have constructed such enormous pyramids without the assistance of alien beings. Elon Musk, a rich American, is one of them, believe it or not. It's not a novel notion that aliens were responsible for building the pyramids. You can discover a ton of blog posts and articles devoted to this hoax if you open your browser and type in how aliens built the pyramids. To further support this scientist's argument that it would require between 1,500 and 2,000 men to rebuild one pyramid, all of these people would contend that even with the cranes, helicopters, tractors, and trucks at our disposal today, it would still be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to do so. Furthermore, it would cost no less than $5 billion to complete such a massive undertaking. For this reason, skeptics like Elon Musk continue to hold the view that the Egyptians could not have survived without assistance from alien beings. However, many experts contend that there is just no evidence to support the existence of aliens, hence these statements are entirely incorrect. Some people think slaves built the pyramids. But historians and archaeologists have also rejected this assertion. So, who exactly constructed the pyramids? Is it extraterrestrials, as Elon Musk speculates, biblical slaves, or even the Egyptians themselves? There is no denying that Egypt's pyramids have grown to be a major tourist attraction. From physicists to archaeologists, celebrities to everyday people, they are now considered a must-see destination for travelers to Egypt. These enormous constructions are fascinating for reasons other than their size or the fact that they have weathered the test of time. Instead, it is the mystery surrounding them and the fact that we are so ignorant of them. One thing we do know is that the pyramids are simply tombs created for the pharaohs and queens of ancient Egypt. In most cases, it was the pharaohs who ordered the construction of these enormous temples while they were still alive, following their demise. To ensure they have a happy afterlife, they are mummified and then interred in the pyramid with a variety of valuables. Why then a pyramid? Why weren't the Egyptians able to simply bury their monarchs in a secret tomb that only a select few were aware of? Why was such a huge structure needed for it? The answer to your question is a little complicated, but we'll do our best to simplify it. There's no way the Egyptians would construct such a massive monument only to bury a king, countering many individuals who think aliens created the pyramid. However, the pyramids are much more than just ancient graves. You know, the Egyptians were totally preoccupied with death and the afterlife. The most significant event in their lives was death. They saw death as the beginning of a new life lived in a different way rather than the end. The pyramids were therefore more than just a memorial built to honor a deceased pharaoh. Rather, they served as a means of granting the pharaoh inside eternal life. Today, the Great Pyramid of Giza is typically the first image that people have in mind when they think about pyramids, and why not? The massive structure held the title of highest man, constructed structure for 3,000 years until 1899. The pyramid stood over 500 feet tall and was 2.3 million tons heavy at its highest point. Many people were quickly persuaded that humans could not have transported and carefully positioned some of the enormous and outrageously massive stones used to construct this pyramid. But like other human civilizations, Egypt took some time to understand how to build the pyramids. Instead, construction methods improved before the ancient Egyptians were finally able to master them. For instance, the Saqqara pyramid, the first in Egypt, was initially constructed as a conventional rectangular tomb. The building's architect Imhotep then made the decision to make it larger so that it was a square before adding a smaller tomb-like square on top of it. After the project is finished, Imhotep made the decision to add a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth level to the structure in order to create the step pyramid after feeling motivated to do so. Tep's pyramid, while not a true pyramid in my opinion because it lacked smooth sides, did serve as an inspiration for future builders who followed in his footsteps. The first authentic attempt to construct a genuine pyramid was made at Medem for King Sneferu. The building's original design called for 7 steps, but 8 steps were eventually added. Eventually, the structure was finished under Sniffer's 14-year rule. However, in Sniffer's 28th or 29th year, he gave the order to send workers back to the location to transform the building into a genuine pyramid. Unfortunately, problems with the building's construction led to its collapse. Sneferu persisted and started another pyramid at Dashur. This pyramid, as opposed to the one that gave rise to him, was the first genuine one to be attempted. However, as the Egyptians were still new to erecting such a tower, things did not go according to plan once again. The time the pyramid was finished, after several years of testing, it appeared bent. The pyramid was given the moniker Bent Pyramid as a result. The Bent Pyramid was created years before the Great Pyramid, despite the fact that the majority of alien theories frequently stated that it was a human replica of the alien-made Giza pyramids. Snapper abandoned his initial effort at a genuine pyramid at Medem and began construction on a new one. He was careful the second time around to avoid the errors that dogged his earlier attempts and thereby gained knowledge from them. Sneferu eventually succeeded in creating the first real pyramid after many years of effort. From this point forward, the Egyptians proceeded to learn, gain experience, and master the art of building a perfect pyramid. So all of the knowledge gained during this time would eventually pave the way for the Great Pyramid of Giza to be built. Even so, it's still unclear how Sneferu managed to construct 3 pyramids in such a brief period of time, especially considering that the only tools available to the ancient Egyptians were chisels and copper. Some archaeologists contend that the Egyptians may have employed additional tools or materials to create these enormous pyramids. They have not endured because they have been lost to the passage of time. If that's the case, why didn't the Egyptians document or record this extremely useful apparatus? The only rational explanation for this is that the Egyptians may have considered the tools to be a normal part of daily life and did not see the need to record them. Today, when you gaze at the beautiful Great Pyramid of Giza, which King Khufu erected, it's easy to be daunted by its height. However, what is even more astounding about it is how precisely it was planned out and carried out. All of them provide additional evidence that the ancient Egyptians were technologically well ahead of their time. Exceptional architects and mathematicians designed each pyramid and carried out geometric calculations to ensure its perfection. 2 other pyramids were constructed at Giza in addition to the Great Pyramid, one for King Kharfre, a son of Khufu, and the other for Kharfre's successor, Khorramin, the famed Sphinx. A huge statue of a lion with a human head meant to mimic Kharfre is also found in Giza. It's vital to remember that none of these pyramids stood alone. Usually, they are a component of a sizable funeral complex. The complex often has a procession causeway connecting the solar pyramid to the burial temple. The family of the king and nobles will be buried in tiny pyramids on each of the 4 corners of the larger pyramids where Barkay is interred. The demand for a pyramid complex is an excellent illustration of this. This complex houses the king's pyramid, a causeway, his Sphinx temple, and a mortuary temple. The pyramid was most likely constructed in 2570 BCE, according to scholars who think the ancient Egyptians were able to create the pyramids because of their enormous riches and the resources at their disposal. They also thought that the fact that the entire Egyptian society was governed by a single person may have contributed, as this would have given the pharaoh the ability to rally everyone into a massive building effort, but that alone wouldn't have been sufficient. One example is the Great Pyramid, which has 2.3 million stones. Archaeologists estimate that the enormous building was constructed over the course of King Khufu's approximately 23-year reign. In order to complete the pyramid, the builders would have needed to lay roughly 340 to 350 blocks per day, using a workforce of 20,000 to 30,000 to 30,000 workers annually. The majority of analysts concur that the Egyptians could only have accomplished this with careful planning. Given the tools available to the Egyptians, many alien theorists contend that only extraterrestrials could have aligned the pyramids with such precision. However, they ignore the fact that some Egyptian temple priests dedicated their entire lives to astronomical research. It was this in-depth understanding that most likely helped them in their architectural endeavors. Despite the claim that they had an astrological background, it still doesn't explain how they managed to construct the pyramids in such a short period of time. In fact, the more closely archaeologists examine the available data, the more concerning it seems to be. Although various explanations have been proposed by academics to explain how the Egyptians accomplished this, the ram theory is likely the most well-known and well-accepted theory. It also has the most supporting data. Experts assert that sleds and ropes were used by the Egyptians to pull stones across the desert. They also think that in order to reduce friction and make the sled easier to drag, they would have moistened the sand. Some old wall paintings display this practice. It is thought that when the stones were transported across the desert, they built a number of ramp alternatives. The stones were then pulled to the top as they ascended using one of these ramps. Experts also believe that once a substantial height was attained and ramps were no longer practical, levers were utilized instead. Archaeologists also think that all of the outside casing stones of the pyramid were cut to be the same breadth and height in order to maintain the symmetry of the structure. It's possible that the Egyptians also marked each block to indicate the angle of the pyramid wall before trimming the surfaces to ensure that the blocks would fit together. To set the ramp system further back, in an old alabaster quarry at a site in the eastern desert, several archaeologists found ramp system remains. The ramp system, according to the researchers, has a history going back at least to the time of Pharaoh Khufu, who constructed the Great Pyramid at Giza. The water shaft hypothesis is an additional theory. Archaeologists claim that special waterways were built all the way to the construction site. The floats, which were either made of cedar wood or inflated animal skins wrapped in papyrus, allowed the stone to float all the way there. That canal has resulted in a moat that surrounds the construction site, allowing blocks to be floated to the side where they were needed. When tied to the stones, the cedar wood or animal skin would allow them to be hauled off the shore. The bricks were then allegedly floated up a hill using water pipelines, which were later expanded as the pyramid developed. A pool of water on top of the construction site, according to their theories, allowed for further floating and placing without the need for actual heavy lifting or dragging. They also thought that a set of gates controlled how the blocks were transported from the moat to the top. According to this notion, the stones might have been lowered very quickly thanks to these water elevators and canals. Although there is no hard proof to support this notion, it has been supported by the discovery of water stains all over the building and flaws running down the center of all four sides. Experts have also made a lot of assumptions regarding how the blocks were constructed. We are aware that the limestone was carved with a copper chisel or saw. But historians and archaeologists are still perplexed as to how the Egyptians managed to make exact cuts and angles without the aid of modern technology. According to proponents of the water and shafts theory, the Egyptians honed the stone underwater while using the water's surface as a level. The stones were now simpler to work with. According to other experts, they measured the angles and looked for uneven surfaces using straightforward instruments like wooden levels, rope, and paint. These hypotheses, along with some supporting evidence discovered by archaeologists, reveals something about the technological sophistication of the Egyptians. The important problems of how the pyramids were constructed are not entirely resolved. It's possible that this is how the prehistoric Egyptians intended it to be, similar to how an autocratic government would want to keep its secrets hidden. It's possible that the Egyptians purposely didn't leave any documentation of their construction process. The type of labor force that was employed to build these antiquated monuments is one more topic of contention related to the pyramids. The renowned Dorian Heraclitus said that slaves had built the Egyptian pyramids, but Herodotus claims that he lived thousands of years after the incident. Perhaps another element that has contributed to this falsehood is the biblical account of Moses. The pyramids were constructed by the Egyptians themselves, not by slave labor. Archaeologists' 1990 discovery of a city of the pyramid builders on the Giza complex, complete with bakeries, institutional structures, and the building for working coppers, provided evidence for this assertion, along with large numbers of bones from cattle, sheep, and goats, enough to feed several thousand people. They also discovered lengthy corridor, like rooms that could accommodate 1,600 to 2,000 laborers. These builders might have come to Giza from all over Egypt. Additionally, archaeologists have found that the pyramid's imperfections are evidence of human manufacture. For instance, highly polished limestone was precisely put around the joints of the pyramid's exterior shell. The pyramid's interior core, however, was exceedingly shoddy. For instance, the Great Pyramid's interior core had stones that were not precisely joined together at all. Archaeologists also discovered marks on the stones and pieces of pottery strewn throughout the pyramids. Elon Musk, the computer millionaire, made the odd claim that the pyramids were built by aliens in a tweet that simply stated, "Aliens built the pyramids clearly," but detractors were quick to jump at him because all of them aren't just features of the old kingdom but attributes of man. However, this is only one of numerous weird assertions and controversies that the tech tycoon has been associated with. The Twitter CEO has also made claims like declaring himself a robot disseminating inaccurate information about COVID-19 and referring to Tesla cars as having 3 acts. Naturally, this particular tweet gained a lot of attention, receiving over 88,000 retweets. However, a lot of individuals did not like the CEO of Twitter. One of these individuals was the Egyptian Minister of International Cooperation who, in response to Mr. Musk's tweet, stated, "I follow your work with a great deal of admiration. I invite SpaceX and you to read up on the history of the construction of the pyramids and to visit the tombs of the architects. We're waiting for you, Mr. Musk." Rocket emoji. Elon Musk was graciously asked to see the pyramid for himself by the Egypt minister, who was obviously perplexed as to why such false claims about his forefathers would come from a respectable scientist. A second Egyptian, Zahi Hawasses, claimed in an Arabic language video that the SpaceX argument was a total hallucination. Elon Musk's claim that aliens built the pyramid, which ancient Egyptians had spent decades constructing, infuriated and upset famous Egyptian archaeologists. Additionally, he claimed, "I discovered the tomb of the pyramid builders, which proclaims to all that the builders of the pyramids were Egyptians and not slaves." It's unclear whether the software mogul was making these absurd assertions in jest or merely exercising his right to free speech. Regardless of what it was, a lot of people obviously didn't find the joke humorous. The following morning, Musk added to his aliens Twitter thread, where he shared some pyramid-related information and acknowledged that humans, not aliens, were responsible for building the pyramids. Additionally, he includes a link to a BBC history page that describes how the Egyptians constructed the pyramids. The Tesla CEO then reaffirmed that he wasn't malicious and was only having fun. However, by that point, the harm had already been done. Consider the thousands of people who already believed him and missed his subsequent tweets. Despite Elon Musk's admission that the pyramids were actually built by the Egyptians, it doesn't put an end to the theories regarding alien involvement in the construction of the pyramids or their presence in human culture. The Egyptians were incredibly discreet about how they constructed the pyramids. If there is one thing that we have been able to demonstrate thus far, who knows what additional information they must have kept hidden, possibly with a supernatural power. However, as of right now, there is no proof of any kind of extraterrestrial involvement in the construction of the pyramids, and perhaps that is all the proof we require. What other hoaxes have you heard that you would want to share with us? Do you believe that aliens actually constructed the pyramids? Please share your opinions in the section below.